from Kadzukian Studios in Memphis, Tennessee.
It's Best in Blue.
Connecting you, the listener, to the everyday inner workings of the Memphis Police Department. Best in Blue.
Hey, this is DC on Best in Blue. You know, Best in Blue is a show that highlights the inner workings and a deep dive into our Memphis Police Department, the good work they're doing out there in the streets, the work that they're doing to help keep us safe on a day-to-day basis. And we want to make sure that our listeners know where you can go for help, who you can call, or what website you can go to by trusting your MPD. And today with us, we've got Major Lambert Ross, who is one of the managers of the Homicide and VCU unit with the Memphis Police Department. Welcome to the program, Major Ross. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Man, it's always good to have a good noob on the show. Any chance you can, especially a brother that made me. But anyway, we're going to get into this thing right quick. Major Ross, one question I've got, and we've talked about this a little bit, and that is the homicide rate in Memphis and where we are in terms of trending. You know, the data shows that are we addressing this issue to where our numbers are going down? Are they going up now? There's all of these pundits out there that want to say crime is bad in Memphis and people are getting killed every day. But you know this for a fact. But give us the facts right here on Best in Blue.
Actually, our homicide numbers are down compared to where they were a year ago. And there's a lot that goes into that. One, the director, he preaches every chance he has opportunity to tell people to put the guns down. And there are a lot of community groups and agencies that are also pushing this message out. You know, put the guns down. Every life you take, you're hurting two families, and you're hurting this city. I mean, the image that this city has, with all the history this city has, we don't want to be known where there's blood in every corner of this city that's on the streets. I mean, whatever the problem is, it can be talked about. There's so many things that the city and the department are trying to do with different units, different organizations that assist the department. There's so many things that we're working toward to try to get young people to understand that it's not worth it to just go and commit these homicides. Because there's so many people that are affected by that one little thing, that one act, that 10 seconds, 20 seconds that you decided that you would pull the trigger. Your family's hurt because once we catch you, you're going to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
You're going to miss, you may miss your mom's funeral.
Yeah.
You'll miss your kids growing up, your wife. There's so many people that are affected by this in a negative way. And also, you'll see things where the people that commit the homicides, this is something that becomes generational. The other people, they're young, their brothers, their relatives, they tend to follow suit because it means, it's like life means nothing. You hear guys talking about, I don't expect to be here when I'm 20 years old.
Do you see in the data that the major crimes or the violent crimes, especially homicide in our city, are being committed by a younger group of persons versus, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 years ago, and it was just a bunch of street fighting and guys ended up with a blade or a gun, and they were older?
It's definitely, there are more guns involved, and not just guns. When I came into this department 20 plus years ago, it was revolvers and shotguns.
Yeah.
Now it's multi-capacity, high-capacity magazines. 14, 15 rounds fired on one scene, and that's going in one direction. So the semi-automatic weapon has changed a lot. And with that, you have so many different, it's not just one target that you're aiming at one target, but your bullets are going every direction. So that's how innocent people are getting killed. Because they're firing so many rounds at either running or driving by, and they're firing so many rounds that innocent people are also being struck by these bullets. So
I guess my question: the perpetrators, are they younger? Are they typically older? In terms of your data that you
the youth, the under 24 group, they commit a lot of the homicides. But let's not discount the over 24.
Oh, sure, no doubt,
because they do their fair share too. But we're trying to make people understand a gun is not the answer to your problems. Taking a life is not the answer to your problem. There are organizations we're trying to work with right now to offer jobs, offer guidance, and take people and mentor them. Those are the things we're trying to do. The church is involved in this. This is something that the director will probably talk about with y'all later on. But there's so many organizations that are trying to get involved in this because we're trying to make sure this city goes in the direction that we want it to go in.
You're listening to The Best in Blue right here on the Kazukia Network. And in terms of the direction that the city is going to go into, the mayor back in January created this new unit, or this supplemental unit, VCU, Violent Crimes Unit, to assist with some of these homicide investigation and other GIB General Investigation Bureau issues. How is that working out so far?
This is working out. It's working out really well. The focus of the Violent Crimes Units is to assist homicide, as you stated. A crime is committed. You start trying to get as much information as you possibly can about who committed that crime, who the perpetrator was of that homicide. VCU will go out and either pull video from locations where the homicide was committed, try to locate witnesses. They'll assist with canvassing neighborhoods. The department, with the numbers we have right now on the job, less than 2,000. Uniform Patrol is, they have their job to answer the calls. But we needed somebody to really get as much information as fast as we possibly could while the information was fresh. And that's where the Violent Crimes Unit was born, to assist homicide in trying to clear up some of these homicide cases. We get a lot of information from them. They make a lot of contacts with folks in the neighborhoods. We also encourage folks to call Crime Stoppers, 528-CASH. That's one of the things where you don't have to reveal who you are. Yeah. It's just a case where you make the phone call, tell us what you know, and we'll follow up on those tips.
With respect to witnesses, in your work here over the last year, with the caseload that's happening now, are we getting a lot more people to come forward and say, "Look, I know something. Maybe this will help"? And I'm sure you all encourage that through everything, not only Best in Blue, watching Best in Blue and listening to Best in Blue, but also in other mediums with some of the other community groups to get involved. Say something, see something, say something.
We're trying our best to make sure that people care, people want to get involved, people want to say, this is not going to happen in my city. I will not let this happen in my city. But at the same time, you have to understand, where homicide is committed, if it's in your neighborhood and the person committed the homicide is also in your neighborhood, there's a fear factor that comes into play. We understand that. We're not going to try to put anyone in danger. That's why Crime Stoppers exist. We're going to still do our job to try to solve every homicide that we possibly can. But in a lot of cases, we need the community's help. And I gotta be honest, this community, you can sense the tide turning. They're getting tired of some of these homicides. And a lot of folks are coming forward and they're giving us information. And that's really the only way we can solve a lot of these homicides. If there's no video where this occurred, if there's not a blue cross camera where this occurred, we need a witness to come forward and give us this information.
The key to it is getting involved. See something, say something.
It's our city. We live here, raise our families here, kids go to school here. You gotta love it. And we have to. It's gonna take all of us to solve these problems in this city.
You're listening to The Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network.
Best in blue for you. Best in blue. Best in blue for you. Kazukian.
Rolling down the street with my radio on, listen to Funky Politics.
The mayor of the city of Memphis, Mayor Jim Strickland. How are you, sir?
Fantastic.
We keep it real, we keep it right, and we keep it funky.
Funky Politics, part of the Kazukia Network.
I'll play the blues for you.
Blues in the Basement with Stephanie and T. Shaw.
Some great festivals going on around the tri-state area.
Got your dancing shoes?
Man, as long as I'm with you, baby, I'm always be on my toes.
Drop that zero.
Bring your blues, boo.
I got them.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Blues in the Basement.
Thrill is gone.
Blues in the Basement, part of the Kazukia Network.
The thrill is gone away.
Hey, I'm Major Lambert Ross with the Memphis Police Department Homicide and Violent Crimes Unit, and you're listening to The Best in Blue on the Kazukia Network.
I go to work like a doctor. When I rock the mic, you got to like the way I operate. I make miracles happen just from rapping. I'm so lyrically potent, and I'm floating, and and exploding on the scene. Mean, I got the potential to make it go then chill. I got the credentials that is the essential to make a rhyme essential.
Hey, DC, back at you right here on Best in Blue on the Kazuki Network. And we are talking to one of the greatest officers that Memphis has ever produced. That's right, folks. Major Lambert Ross of the Homicide and VCU units right here with the Memphis Police Department. Man, you know, Major Ross, let me ask you this. In terms of this VCU, this new piece that's come around since January, and how they integrate with Homicide and some of the other bureaus, give me a little detail of what they do, how they do it, and kind of tell our listeners that VCU is a part of what we're going to be doing here in the next several years.
Well, the VCU will, of course, the primary objective is to assist homicide. But when we start looking at some of the crimes that occur, some of the violent crimes, say, for instance, the smash and grabs that have been going on lately, where the guys are going and, breaking the glasses on cases in jewelry stores, the cell phone robberies at the cell phone stores. VCU will try and get as much video as they possibly can. They will try and they will meet with the investigators at different stations where these crimes occurred, and they will see what the common links are from vehicles, from descriptions, what the MOs are that when these crimes were committed, and we will try to piece together as much of that puzzle as we possibly can to try and work toward the identification of the suspects. VCU has resources that are not dedicated to just answering calls. We try to pick the crimes that have the greatest negative impact on the city, and deal with those folks, the ones who are constantly committing the same crimes in different locations. And in 2 weeks, they may go back and repeat where they started at. So what they try to do is put together a packet and fill all these pieces in so we can narrow down who these suspects are.
Well, now you said smash and grab. We've seen a lot in the news lately here, not only in Memphis, but I think I've seen it in some other parts of the country. Has this thing escalated a little bit about folks going into the malls and some of these stores and so forth and committing these violent crimes, these violent acts by just simple what we consider to be theft? But if you go into a store and I'm in there with my grandmother, she's 92 years old, and I'm trying to pick out a brooch for her, and you come in there with a hammer, you scare the hell out of her, possibly, and that could be considered something violent there, right?
Yeah, it is. It comes in waves. It's like anything else that happens in the country. Once it gets on social media, once it makes the news,
social media.
Someone else will see it. Someone else will think that's a great idea, and then they'll just go and start reenacting it. So it comes in waves. It started a few years ago with the guys out of Texas that came. They were making the circuit throughout the South, and they would just stop it at locations around the country as they were going down 40 and 55 and into Texas, and just hitting different locations. One thing about that is you may have video, but you're airing this on local news stations that may reach a 120-mile radius. No one knows who these people are because they may live 500 to 1,000 miles away.
Oh, I see.
So no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. So that's when you start working with the FBI, with ATF and U.S. Marshals. That's when you start reaching to the federal networks to try to get everyone involved. VCU will do everything possible when it comes to selecting the best cases that have the greatest impact. And crimes like this create fear in the community.
Yeah.
When you don't feel safe going to the mall with your kids, that's not a good place for society. So those are the things that we are trying to address in every way that we possibly can.
You're listening to Best in Blue right here on the Kazuki Network, and that's one of the concepts out there right now. You got citizens who just don't feel safe, and maybe you have some average citizens that believe that they can't go to the grocery store. They look at all this stuff on TV, and the news is reporting it at 5, at 10, sometimes at 9, 9:30 that Memphis is a violent city, and the numbers don't dictate that, though, do they?
No, the crimes that occur in Memphis, those first 6 minutes of the news, that's what you see, that's what you remember. I'm not saying that what's going on is nothing, but our crimes are down. When we started Blue Crush in 2006 to where we are now, we're still 28% lower than what we were, 27% lower than what we were in 2006. So our crimes are down. Look at homicides. Some down compared to what last year's record was. Still, when someone sees something happen in their neighborhood, or if they know the person that this happened to, it affects them. They feel that in a different way. But the police department, your police department is doing everything we possibly can to make sure that everyone in this city is safe. We just started another class with another 100 officers. That's going to be an impact. It's going to take us another few years to get to the point where we need to be, where we're up to over 2,400 officers. But but this is, we didn't get this place overnight.
No.
And we won't get out of this hole overnight. But at the same time, this is a goal that the director set, the mayor set, and people are buying into it. There are a lot of officers who do this job because they love this city. I'm one of them. It's important for us to make Memphis what it should be. And, some of the things that are going on in the city right now, it's not what we like. It's not what we want. Yeah. So we're going to do everything we can to stop it. It's going to take education. It's going to take more police officers. It's going to take jobs. But those are the things we have to address. And it's going to take people just saying they're tired of it. And call when you see something happen in your neighborhood. Call. Get involved in your communities. Neighborhood watch. There's so many things that you can do in your neighborhood, being a police officer, just being a part of making the change, because the change is going to happen. We all know that it's going to happen because we're too committed to it. So this is something that we encourage everyone to do. Get involved in your community and be a part of this city. Don't just sit back and look at what's going on. Jump in and be a part of a solution to help all of us move forward in the direction we're trying to get to. All the guys that I work with, I'm not going to say work for me. I'm talking about guys I work with because we're still police officers. They all take this job seriously. They every day. They're trying their best to figure out, what can I do? What am I missing in this? We try to put fresh eyes on things. What am I missing? There's got to be a link. We work with the county on a lot of things because crimes don't, there's no border to a crime.
That's right.
You commit a crime in the city, but you live in the county. We work with the county on a lot of things. They work with us on a lot of things. So this is one of those things where it's going to take all of us. The Violent Crimes Unit is just a part of it. But there's so many other pieces that go into this to make this work.
You're listening to the Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network.
I go to work. I go to work.
Best in blue for you, Kazukian.
Eye Conversation.
Elliot Perry, otherwise known as Socks.
Man, thank you. How you guys doing?
Mr. Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Hey, thank you. Nice to be with you guys.
Glad to have Mr. Allen Houston.
Trying to stay warm up here.
Personality extraordinaire, Mr. Scoop Jackson.
Happy the encore.
Mr. Michael Ray Richardson.
Glad to be here, brother.
A 3-time NBA All-Star, the one, the only Detlef Shrimp.
Howard and Larry, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
Eye Conversation.
On the Kazukian Network.
Hey, I'm Major Lambert Ross with the Memphis Police Department Homicide and Violent Crimes Unit, and you're listening to the Best in Blue on the Kazukian Network.
DC back at you here on Best in Blue, and we are sitting here with the one and only Major Lambert Ross, the Homicide and VCU unit with the Memphis Police Department. And man, I tell you, we've had a conversation today, Major, and the work you've done with the Memphis Police Department over the last 27 years. The good thing about it is I've known you, I think, before the 27 years, but
true.
And it had nothing to do with the police, right? Had nothing to do with the police.
No, we wouldn't discuss that, Darryl.
Yeah, no, we won't discuss that. No. Memphis State University. But, walk me through the timeline. I remember you were, I think you were a junior or senior at Memphis at the time, and you got on with the police department, and now 27 years later, you're a major. You've been through several departments.
I have.
Give me a couple of departments you've worked in.
I've worked uniform patrol, of course. That's where we all start at. Yeah. And I try to tell the young officers now, enjoy their time in uniform patrol, because once you leave uniform patrol and get to a investigative bureau, anything you leave on your desk today, it's going to be there tomorrow. Uniform patrol, every day is a different day. You may deal with the same kind of things, but there's always something different about that day. And that's when your bonds are formed with your partners and stuff. That's when you really learn the true essence of being a police officer, because you have to work together. You have to depend on each other. But from there, I worked in Internal Affairs Security Squad for a few years. I worked in fraud in white-collar crimes for about 5 years. Went to a federal task force. It was called Trigger Lock at the time. We dealt with convicted felons' possession of firearms and ammunition. It was a part of ATF. Organized crime, worked there. And that, too, is fun because when you're dealing with the drug world, every day you don't win. And you try to tell people, look, don't get mad because you didn't get the drugs or you didn't get the money today. Do your work, get smarter, because some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield. Yeah. From there, I've gone and I've worked in at the Real-Time Crime Center as a lieutenant, also as a commander. I worked out at O'Allen for a while on the evening shift, and that too was rewarding because there are parts of the city, the people that you meet in the Fraser, Raleigh area, and there's other parts of the city too are the same way. They lived in those same places, those same homes for 40 years, and they love their community just like everyone else does. Yeah. Just like the folks in East Memphis, just like the folks in Midtown. They, too, love their communities. And, with that, you want to do all that you can to make their communities just as safe as some other communities are. You don't want anyone to feel slighted about the service they receive from the police department. Because, when it comes to policing, we're there to do that one job. It's to protect and to serve. And protecting and serving are equal. I mean, the community is there, and we work for this community. And we try to do all that we possibly can, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, what color you are, what your house costs, what car you drive. That doesn't matter to us. We're here to be a part of this community that we work in to make it a safer and better place for the folks who live there.
You're listening to Best in Blue right here on the Kazukian Network. I want to go back to a piece you just talked about, the Real-Time Crime Center.
Yes.
And this, I imagine, is the unit that has the cameras around the city. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. A little bit about the Real-Time Crime Center, so our citizens and our listeners will know kind of what's that eye in the sky, so to speak.
The Real-Time Crime Center has access to over 1,000 cameras around the city.
Wow.
Now, it's not possible to watch 1,000 cameras, but those cameras are recording. We try to put those cameras in strategic areas to deter crime. It's one thing to capture crime. We prefer that crime not happen. So that's the effort with when we do run the crime data to determine where to place a camera at. Now, there's some parts of the city you just have to do it because, let's take downtown, Bill Street area. Any weekend down there, you may have 10,000 people. Yeah. So you try to put cameras in an area where you get a huge gathering of people. And the cameras are there for us to monitor what's going on. If anything occurs, then we hope to capture, prevent, and if we can't prevent it, we can go back and look at video and try to capture the incident and determine who did what at that time. But also, it's just not cameras that come through. The Crime Stoppers, the 528 cash calls, that rings there also at the Real-Time Crime Center.
Oh, wow, it does.
Yes. And, that's, 528 cash is anonymous. No one knows who's calling. We don't want your name when you call 528 cash. This is strictly a situation where you get information, you call, you get the information, and we'll give you a tip number. And that's all it is. The information that when you dial, all shows up on our phone is Crime Stoppers. I couldn't tell you what your number was, what your name was. I don't want your name.
And I think a lot of people believe that this anonymity is not there. It's maybe one of the reasons why they're not calling. But you're saying there is some anonymity in terms of people calling the Crime Stoppers number.
It's totally to anyone in that center. I mean, you could not even subpoena the records for Crime Stoppers.
Wow.
Because they're not even housed in the United States.
Oh wow!
So efforts have been made, but the records don't exist in this country. So all the call data, it's not here. So when you call Crime Stoppers, we don't want your name, we don't want your phone number.
But you do get a tip number, like we would B18569.
You will get a tip number, and if the information you provide leads to an arrest, then you will be paid. Crime Stoppers is one of the best things we got going.
And have we seen a measurable number of cases solved because of the tips coming in through Crime Stoppers?
Absolutely. There have been many cases solved through Crime Stoppers because many cases we didn't have any more information. The scene did not give us what we needed to solve this crime. We still need help with a lot of cases that are still out there. The Layla Washington case, we need help with that case. Last check, the award on that case was at $20,000. So
is that the baby?
Yes, that's the 2-year-old. Those are the things we need the community to step forward with. It's so important for us to be involved in our community, to engage in our community. Don't let things happen in this community go unchallenged. If it happens on your street, you should be willing to say something about it because your family either lives there or someone you love and care about comes to visit at that location on that street. You don't want anything to happen to them. What happened to somebody's child or somebody's relative down the street? If you know something, you got a duty to say something. If you really care about this city, you have a duty to say something.
And especially if you care about humankind.
Exactly.
You're listening to The Best in Blue right here on the Kazukia Network.
Best in Blue, recorded live at Kazukian Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. Executive producer Larry Robinson. Best in Blue, part of the Kazukian Network.